Tom Bradley had been cleaning floors at the Dallas spaceport for 15 years. Every night, same routine. Mop the terminals, empty the trash, wipe down the benches where thousands of aliens and humans waited for their flights to distant worlds. Nobody really saw him. To the fancy business travelers in their expensive suits, to the alien diplomats with their entourages, to the excited families heading off on vacation, Tom was just part of the background. Another middle-aged guy in a gray uniform pushing a cleaning cart. He didn't mind it much, honestly. The night shift paid a bit extra, and it was quiet. Most of the chaos died down after midnight. Just him, his podcasts, and the endless hallways of Terminal 9. Sometimes he'd watch the ships taking off through the massive windows, their engines glowing as they punched through Earth's atmosphere toward the stars. He tried to get a job on one of those ships once, back when he was younger. Didn't have the right education, they said. So he stayed on the ground, keeping things clean for people heading to places he'd never see. It was pushing 2 in the morning when Tom wheeled his cart out to the dumpsters behind Terminal 9. February in Dallas, cold enough that he could see his breath. The service area was lit by a single flickering light that maintenance kept promising to fix. He just tossed in another bag of trash when he heard it. A small sound, almost like a kitten mewing. Tom froze. They had problems with stray cats sometimes, but this sounded different. He walked around the dumpster, pulling out his phone for the flashlight. That's when he saw her. The kid was tiny, maybe 7 or 8 years old by human standards, though with aliens you could never really tell. She was tucked into the corner where the dumpsters met the wall, trying to make herself as small as possible. Her skin had this faint blue glow to it, which meant she was Vulcan. Tom had seen plenty of them passing through the spaceport. Usually they were dressed nice, traveling in groups, looking important. This kid was wearing torn clothes, covered in dirt, and shaking from the cold. Her skin, which should have been bright blue, looked dull and gray. The glow was almost out. "Hey there," Tom said softly, the way you'd talk to a scared animal. "You okay, kiddo?" The child looked up at him with these huge eyes, 4 of them, which was normal for Vulcans. They were filled with terror. She tried to scramble further into the corner, but there was nowhere to go. Tom held up his hands. "Easy, easy. I'm not gonna hurt you. You speak English?" The kid nodded slowly, still pressed against the wall. "You out here alone?" Tom asked. Another nod. "You lost?" Another nod, and then the kid started crying. Not loud, just these quiet little sobs that absolutely broke Tom's heart. He looked around the empty service area. Protocol said he should call security, let them handle it. They'd take the kid to the station office, file a report, contact whatever agency dealt with lost alien children. It would take hours. The kid would sit in some cold office while people filled out forms. Meanwhile, she looked like she hadn't eaten in days. Tom made a decision. He crouched down to the kid's level, still keeping his distance so he wouldn't spook her. "You hungry?" he asked. The child's eyes went wide. She nodded so hard her whole body moved. "All right then," Tom said. He went back to his cart and grabbed his lunchbox. His ex-wife Linda used to make fun of him for still using an old metal lunchbox like some kind of school kid, but it kept his food cold. He pulled out his sandwich, turkey and cheese, and a bag of chips. There was an apple too, and a granola bar. He walked back slowly and set the food on the ground between them, then backed up a few steps. The kid stared at the food like it might disappear. Then she lunged forward and started eating so fast Tom worried she might choke. Slow down," he said gently. "It's okay, there's more if you need it. When's the last time you ate?" The kid looked up, sandwich clutched in both hands. 3 days, she whispered. 3 days. Tom felt anger rising in his chest. Not at the kid, but at whatever situation had left a child alone and starving behind a spaceport dumpster. "What's your name, honey?" "Kira," the child said between bites. "I'm Tom. Nice to meet you, Kira. How'd you end up out here?" The story came out in pieces while she ate. There'd been some kind of evacuation drill that went wrong. Alarms going off, people running everywhere. Kira got separated from her family in the chaos. She'd been trying to find them for days, but the spaceport was massive and confusing. She didn't know which terminal they'd been in. She was scared to ask the security people because she thought she'd be in trouble for getting lost. Tom listened, nodding along, his heart sinking with every detail. This poor kid had been wandering around for 3 days, sleeping in corners, drinking from water fountains, too terrified to ask for help. And hundreds, maybe thousands of people had walked right past her without stopping. When she finished eating, Tom shrugged off his jacket and wrapped it around her shoulders. It was way too big, but at least it was warm. Alright Kira, here's what we're gonna do. I'm gonna help you find your family, okay? But we're gonna do it the smart way, not through all that security rigmarole that'll take forever. He pulled out his phone and started searching for the Vulcan Embassy contact information. There had to be someone there who could help track down this kid's family faster than the bureaucratic nightmare that was station security. While he searched, he sat down on the ground next to Kira, showing her pictures on his phone to distract her. Photos of his dog, of the Gulf Coast where he'd grown up, of the bluebonnets that covered Texas in spring. Kira leaned against him, exhausted, and Tom felt her relax for the first time. She'd been holding all that fear inside for 3 days. Now, finally, she'd found someone who gave a damn. It took 2 hours of calls, but Tom finally got through to someone at the Vulcan Embassy who could help. They'd been searching for Kira frantically, he learned. Her family had reported her missing immediately. By the time Vulcan officials arrived at the spaceport at dawn, Tom had taught Kira how to play Go Fish with an old deck of cards he kept in his cart, and she was actually laughing. When they came to take her, official-looking Vulcans in fancy uniforms, Kira wrapped her arms around Tom's waist and didn't want to let go. "Thank you," she whispered. "Thank you for seeing me." Tom hugged her back, fighting the lump in his throat. "You take care of yourself, kiddo." He watched them leave, Kira looking back over her shoulder until they disappeared around the corner. Then Tom picked up his mop and went back to work. Just another night at the spaceport. Just another person nobody noticed doing what needed to be done. He had no idea that everything was about to change. Tom got home around 7 in the morning, like always. His apartment was nothing special, a one-bedroom place in a neighborhood that had seen better days. The rent was cheap, which was all that mattered on a janitor's salary. He kicked off his work boots, heated up some leftover pizza, and collapsed onto his couch. His whole body ached. 15 years of mopping floors and lifting trash bags had done a number on his back. He thought about Kira for a minute before falling asleep. Hoped she was okay. Hoped she'd found her family. Then exhaustion took over and he was out cold. The knocking started around 2 in the afternoon. At first, Tom thought it was part of a dream. Then it got louder. More insistent. He groaned and rolled off the couch, stumbling to the door in his wrinkled t-shirt and sweatpants. Probably his landlord wanting to complain about something. He opened the door and found himself face to face with 2 police officers. Behind them, his entire street was blocked off. Squad cars everywhere. News vans. Helicopters circling overhead. People with cameras. His neighbors standing on their porches, phones out, filming everything. "Mr. Bradley," one of the cops said. "We need you to come with us. Now." Tom's brain was still foggy from sleep. "What? Why? What's going on?" The cop pointed up. "Just look." Tom stepped out onto his small porch and looked at the sky. His knees almost gave out. Ships. Hundreds of them. Massive alien warships hanging in the air above his neighborhood like dark clouds, blocking out the afternoon sun. They were Vulcan ships, he could tell from the design. Sleek black hulls that seemed to absorb light. Each one was bigger than a football stadium. They hovered there silently, motionless, their presence making the air feel heavy and electric. "What the hell?" Tom whispered. More vehicles were pulling up. Military trucks. Black SUVs with government plates. His phone started buzzing in his pocket, over and over, dozens of calls from numbers he didn't recognize. His neighbor Russell was leaning over the fence, eyes wide with fear. "Tom, what did you do, man?" "I didn't do anything," Tom said, but even as the words came out, his mind was racing. The ships were Vulcan. Kira was Vulcan. This had to be connected, but how? Why? Then they came. Not from the cars, but from the sky. A smaller ship descended, landing right in the middle of his street with a low hum that rattled windows. The boarding ramp lowered and soldiers marched out. Vulcan soldiers in ceremonial armor that looked like it cost more than Tom's entire apartment building. They moved with precision, forming 2 perfect lines leading from the ship to Tom's front yard. The lead soldier approached Tom and did something that made his skin crawl. The alien dropped to one knee and bowed his head. All the other soldiers did the same. Police officers backed away. The news cameras went crazy, everyone filming, people shouting questions. "Mr. Thomas Bradley," the soldier said in perfect English, his voice deep and resonant. "The Vulcan Empire requests your presence. Her Imperial Majesty, Empress Natara, wishes to speak with you." Empress. Tom's mouth was dry. "Listen, I think there's been some kind of mistake. I'm just a janitor. I clean floors. I don't know any Empress. There is no mistake, the soldier said, still kneeling. You saved the life of Princess Kira, heir to the Velkan throne. The Empress has traveled 7-star systems to meet the human who showed kindness to her granddaughter. The words hit Tom like a truck. Princess? Heir to the throne? That scared little kid eating his turkey sandwich behind a dumpster was royalty? He thought about Kira in her torn clothes, shaking from cold and hunger, and anger flashed through him. What kind of security let a princess go missing for 3 days? But there wasn't time to process it. The soldiers stood and gently, but firmly, escorted Tom toward his front yard. They weren't rough about it, but it was clear he didn't have a choice. Someone wrapped a jacket around his shoulders, probably because he was still in sweatpants and looked like he just rolled out of bed. Which he had. They positioned him in the center of his tiny yard, the grass patchy and brown because he always forgot to water it. Then the air shimmered and a hologram appeared, 15 feet tall, crystal clear. A woman stood before him, or at least the projection of a woman. She had the same blue glowing skin as Kira, but where the child had looked vulnerable, this woman radiated power. She wore robes that seemed to be made of liquid starlight. Her 4 eyes were sharp and intelligent. A crown of some dark metal sat on her head, simple but unmistakable. This was someone used to being obeyed. Thomas Bradley, the Empress said, and her voice carried across the entire street. Everyone could hear. The news cameras captured every word. I am Empress Natara of the Velkan people. 4 nights ago, you encountered my granddaughter in circumstances of great distress. Tom swallowed hard. Yes? I mean, Your Majesty. I mean. He had no idea how you were supposed to talk to an alien empress. Yeah, I helped a kid who was hungry. Didn't know she was a princess. You did not need to know, the Empress said. You saw a child in need and you acted. Do you understand what you saved, Thomas Bradley? My granddaughter is the last of our royal bloodline. 2 years ago, a plague swept through our empire. It took my children, my siblings, my cousins. Thousands of our nobility died. Kira is all that remains. She is the future of our entire civilization. Tom felt the weight of 300 warships pressing down on him. I'm glad she's okay. I really am. But I was just doing what anyone would do. The Empress's expression hardened. That is where you are wrong. The security footage shows that 4 to 7 beings, human and alien alike, walked past my granddaughter during her time of suffering. 4 to 7. They saw her and they kept walking. They had places to be, schedules to keep, problems of their own. But you stopped. You gave her your food. Your jacket. Your time. You stayed with her through the night when you could have simply made a call and left. Tom didn't know what to say to that. Around him, his neighbors were silent. The police officers looked uncomfortable. He could see it in their faces, the recognition. How many homeless people had they walked past? How many people asking for help had they ignored because it was easier? In Velkan culture, the Empress continued, a life debt is sacred. You saved not just Kira's life, but the future of 17-star systems. I have come with my fleet to honor that debt. I will give you anything you desire. Wealth beyond measure. Technology centuries beyond Earth's current level. A planet of your own. A title of nobility. Adoption into the royal family itself. Name your price, Thomas Bradley. Name it, and it is yours. Tom stood there in his sweatpants, in his patchy yard, under the shadow of 300 warships, with cameras broadcasting this moment to the entire planet. His phone wouldn't stop buzzing. He could hear helicopters overhead. His ex-wife Linda was probably watching this on TV right now. His life, his quiet invisible life, was over. And all because he'd shared a sandwich with a hungry kid. Can I think about it? Tom asked weakly. The Empress smiled, and it wasn't entirely warm. Of course. But understand, Thomas Bradley, the debt will be paid. One way or another. The honor of the Velkan Empire demands it. I will return tomorrow for your answer. The hologram vanished. The soldiers retreated to their ship. Within minutes, they were gone, back up to the fleet hovering above. But the warships remained. A constant reminder that Tom's life had just become very, very complicated. His phone rang again. This time he looked at it. 53 missed calls. Messages flooding in. And now people were at his fence, reporters shouting questions, neighbors demanding to know what was happening. Tom looked up at the ships blocking out the sun and had one clear thought, I just wanted to help a kid. Tom didn't sleep that night. How could he? His phone never stopped ringing. News helicopters circled overhead until 3 in the morning when someone finally shut them down. His landlord called 6 times. His boss at the spaceport called, confused and worried. Old friends he hadn't talked to in years suddenly wanted to catch up. His cousin Danny, who'd borrowed $200 5 years ago and never paid it back, left 3 voicemails about family sticking together. The worst call came around midnight. Linda, his ex-wife. They'd been divorced for 8 years, and in all that time, she'd called him maybe twice. Both times to ask about taxes. Tom? Oh my God, Tom, I saw you on the news. This is incredible. Listen, I know things ended badly between us, but I've been thinking lately that maybe we gave up too fast. Maybe we should talk about giving things another try. Tom had laughed. Actually laughed. Not because it was funny, but because it was so painfully obvious. Linda, you left me because I was, and I quote, a loser with no ambition who'd never amount to anything. You married a dentist. You have a nice house in the suburbs. What exactly changed? The silence on the other end told him everything. She wanted in on whatever the Vulcans were offering. Just like everyone else. By morning, his street looked like a carnival. News crews had set up camp on every corner. Vendors were selling t-shirts with his face on them. Someone had started a website. There were protesters too, holding signs about alien invasion and Earth sovereignty. The government had set up a perimeter, but nothing could stop the chaos. Around 10 in the morning, a convoy of black SUVs pushed through the crowds. Men in expensive suits got out, flanked by Secret Service. Tom recognized one face from TV. Senator Hayes from the Foreign Relations Committee. They knocked on his door with the kind of authority that assumed they'd be let in. Tom almost didn't answer. But these weren't people you could ignore. Senator Hayes sat on Tom's worn couch like he was afraid he might catch something from it. Mr. Bradley, I'll get straight to the point. What you've stumbled into here is a matter of national security. Possibly planetary security. The Vulcans are offering you resources that could change the balance of power in this sector of the galaxy. I helped a lost kid, Tom said flatly. That's all I did. That's all you think you did, another suit interrupted. He introduced himself as Peterson from the State Department. But you've created a diplomatic situation. Whatever you accept from the Vulcans, it affects Earth's standing with dozens of other alien species. We need to coordinate your response. Tom stared at him. Coordinate my response? You mean you want to tell me what to ask for? We want to help you make the right choice, Senator Hayes said smoothly. A choice that benefits not just you, but all of humanity. Imagine if you requested advanced medical technology. Or clean energy systems. Or defensive capabilities. Weapons, Tom said. You want me to ask for weapons? The uncomfortable silence told him he was right. We're just saying, Peterson continued, that you have an opportunity here to do something significant for your species. For your planet. Don't you want to be a hero, Mr. Bradley? Tom thought about that word. Hero. 24 hours ago, nobody knew his name. He was invisible. Now everyone wanted a piece of him, and they all had the same sales pitch. Think bigger. Think about the opportunity. Don't be selfish. Meanwhile, every single one of them was thinking about what they could get out of it. Get out, Tom said quietly. Senator Hayes blinked. Excuse me? I said get out of my house. I helped a scared kid. I'm not turning that into a weapons deal or a political stunt. Get out. They left, but not before Peterson handed Tom a business card. When you're ready to be reasonable, call us. Before you make any decisions you'll regret. They weren't the last visitors. A tech billionaire offered Tom $50 million to request Vulcan computer technology and share it with his company. A pharmaceutical executive promised him 10% of all profits if he'd ask for alien medical advances. Religious leaders came to warn him about the dangers of alien influence. Activists begged him to demand environmental technology to save the planet. Everyone had an angle. Everyone wanted something. And the crazy part was, they all acted like they were doing Tom a favor by telling him what to ask for. By afternoon, Tom was hiding in his bedroom with the lights off, trying to pretend none of this was happening. That's when the knock came. Different from the others. Gentle. Almost hesitant. He opened the door and found Vulcan soldiers again. But this time, they weren't alone. Kira stood between them, wearing clothes that probably cost more than Tom's car. Royal robes, jewelry, the works. But her face lit up when she saw him. Tom. She broke away from the soldiers and hugged him around the waist. Just like she had at the spaceport. Despite everything, Tom smiled. Hey kiddo. You clean up nice. Grandmother says I have to dress like a princess now, Kira said, making a face. It's uncomfortable. I liked your jacket better. The lead soldier cleared his throat. Princess Kira requested to see you before the Empress's return. We will wait outside. When they were alone, Kira sat on Tom's couch, looking small despite all her fancy clothes. Everyone's acting weird, she said. All the advisors and the diplomats. They keep talking about strategic value and political leverage. They're happy I'm safe, but mostly they're excited about the debt payment. Nobody's talking about what actually happened. Tom sat down next to her. Yeah, I've noticed people get weird when there's something valuable on the table. Is that why you helped me? Kira asked suddenly, looking up at him with those big 4 eyes. Because I was valuable. The question hit Tom hard. No, he said firmly. I helped you because you were a kid who needed help. That's it. I didn't know you were a princess. Honestly, if I had known, I probably would have been too scared to do anything except call the official channels. But you didn't know, Kira said. So you just helped me because I was there. Because I was hungry and cold and scared. Yeah. Kira was quiet for a moment. That's what I told grandmother. I said you didn't help Princess Kira, heir to the throne. You helped me. Just me. A kid behind a dumpster that everyone else walked past. Tom felt his throat tighten. Your grandmother seems pretty set on this whole debt repayment thing. She is. It's important to our culture. A life debt has to be honored. Kira looked at her hands. What are you going to ask for? Everyone says you should ask for something big. Planets or technology or titles. Tom had been thinking about that question for 24 hours straight. He'd thought about all the offers, all the angles, all the ways he could benefit from this situation. He could be rich, powerful, important. He could give interviews and write a book and never have to mop another floor for the rest of his life. But every time he thought about accepting something like that, he remembered Kira's face when he'd found her. The way she'd curled up in that corner, trying to be invisible. The way she'd eaten that sandwich like she'd never tasted anything better. The way she'd whispered, "Thank you for seeing me. Can I ask you something?" Tom said. How many people walked past you? Before I found you? Kira looked down. I counted. 47. Some were humans. Some were other aliens. A few looked at me. Most didn't. I tried to ask for help once, but the person walked away faster. 47 people. Tom thought about his own city, his own streets. How many people like Kira were there right now? Not lost alien princesses, but regular people. Kids sleeping in shelters. Families going hungry. People who'd become invisible because everyone was too busy, too stressed, too focused on their own problems to stop and help. I think I know what I'm going to ask for, Tom said slowly. But I'm gonna need your help to make it work. Kira looked up at him, curious and hopeful. What is it? Tom told her. As he explained his idea, he watched her face transform. First confusion, then understanding, then excitement. By the time he finished, she was grinning. They're going to think you're crazy, she said. Probably, Tom agreed. Grandmother's not going to understand at first. Neither will the council. I figured. Kira stood up, suddenly looking very much like a princess despite being 8 years old. Then I'll help you explain it. Because you're right, Tom. If my life was worth saving, then so is everyone else's. The next morning, Tom put on his cleanest jeans and the one button-up shirt he owned that didn't have any stains. He looked at himself in the bathroom mirror and almost laughed. Here he was, about to face an alien empress and her entire fleet, dressed like he was going to a job interview at a car dealership. The Vulcan soldiers arrived exactly at noon. This time they brought a proper transport, sleek and silent. As Tom stepped outside, the crowd that had been camping on his street for 2 days erupted. Cameras flashed. Reporters screamed questions. Someone threw flowers. The whole thing felt surreal. The ship took him up. Tom had never been in space before, never been off Earth at all. He pressed his face to the window like a kid, watching his neighborhood shrink below, then the city, then the whole curve of Texas spreading out beneath him. For a moment, he forgot to be nervous. Then they docked with the flagship, and reality came crashing back. The ship's interior was like nothing Tom had ever seen. Everything gleamed with dark metal and blue light. Vulcan crew members stopped and bowed as he passed. They led him through corridors that seemed to go on forever until finally, they reached a massive chamber. Empress Natara sat on a throne that looked carved from a single piece of black crystal. Around her stood dozens of aliens in elaborate robes. Advisors, Tom guessed. Military commanders. Politicians. All of them staring at him like he was a bug under a microscope. Kira stood beside her grandmother, looking small but determined. Thomas Bradley, the Empress said, her voice echoing in the vast space. Have you decided how the Vulcan Empire will honor its debt to you? Tom's mouth was dry. Every eye in the room was on him. He could feel the weight of those 300 warships outside. The weight of expectations from Earth below. Everyone wanted him to ask for something big, something that would change everything. Yes, Your Majesty, Tom said. His voice sounded tiny in the huge chamber. I have. The Empress leaned forward slightly. Speak, then. Name your price. Whatever you desire, it shall be yours. Tom took a deep breath. I want you to help people who can't help themselves. People who get overlooked. People who are invisible. Silence. Complete, confused silence. One of the advisors leaned toward another and whispered something. The Empress's expression didn't change, but Tom could see the question in her eyes. Elaborate, she said. On Earth, right now, there are millions of people like Kira was when I found her. Tom continued, his words coming faster now. They are hungry. They're cold. They're scared. They sleep under bridges and in shelters. Kids go to schools that don't have enough books or teachers. People get sick and can't afford medicine. Not because they're bad people or lazy. Just because life knocked them down and nobody stopped to help them back up. You wish us to provide charity to your planet, one of the advisors said, and his tone made it clear what he thought of that idea. No, Tom said firmly. Not charity. I want you to do what I did. See people. Really see them. Not as resources or statistics or problems. As people who matter. I want you to build medical centers in neighborhoods where people can't afford healthcare. I want you to create housing for people sleeping on the streets. I want you to fund schools in places where kids don't have a chance. Not through governments or corporations that'll mess it up with red tape and corruption. Direct help. Person to person. The murmuring in the chamber grew louder. Tom could hear the word foolish more than once. An older Vulcan in military uniform stepped forward. You would waste the gratitude of an empire on beings who cannot repay the debt? On strangers who mean nothing to you? This is madness. Is it? Tom shot back, surprised by his own courage. Your Majesty, you told me 4 to 7 people walked past Kira. 4 to 7 chances for someone to help, and they all kept walking. I stopped because I saw a person who needed help, not because I expected anything back. That's what I'm asking you to do. Help people because they need it, not because they can pay you back. Empress Natara was studying him intently now. This concept is foreign to our culture. Honor debts are repaid to the individual who earned them. You saved Kira. The debt is to you. Why would you redirect it to complete strangers? Tom thought about how to explain it. Because Kira asked me a question yesterday. She asked why I helped her. The truth is, I didn't help her because she was special or important. I helped her because she was there and she needed help. That's it. If your empire really wants to honor what I did, then do what I did. See the people everyone else walks past. Kira stepped forward then, her young voice cutting through the murmurs. His right, grandmother. If I'm going to be empress someday, I need to lead an empire that values what Tom showed me. He didn't save me because of what I could give him. He saved me because it was the right thing to do. Princess, one of the advisors started, but Kira cut him off. How many people in our empire are like I was that night? Hungry? Alone? Forgotten? If my life is valuable enough to bring 300 ships across space, then their lives matter too. Tom's teaching us something we forgot. That strength isn't just about power and honor codes. It's about choosing to help when you don't have to. The chamber erupted in argument. Some advisors were outraged. Others looked thoughtful. The military commander was shaking his head. But Empress Natara raised one hand, and instant silence fell. You ask us to spend vast resources on beings who cannot repay the debt, she said slowly. To help those whose society has deemed expendable. This goes against centuries of Vulcan tradition. Tom's heart sank. He'd blown it. Asked for too much, something too strange. But then the Empress continued. However, my granddaughter makes a valid point. She survived because you broke from what is customary. You acted with compassion when logic said to walk away. Perhaps there is wisdom in examining why your way succeeded where our protocols failed. She stood, and everyone in the chamber immediately bowed. Tom awkwardly tried to copy them. I will agree to your request, Thomas Bradley, the Empress said. But understand this. If we do this, we do it completely. The Web Initiative, we will call it, named for your family. We will establish networks of aid on Earth. Medical facilities. Housing. Educational programs. But we will also examine our own society through this new lens. If we honor the debt by helping the helpless, then we must ask ourselves who in our own empire we have overlooked. Tom could barely process what he was hearing. She was saying yes. Not just yes to helping Earth, but yes to something bigger. There is one condition, the Empress added, and Tom's stomach dropped. You must oversee the implementation personally. You gave us this vision. You will help us understand how to execute it properly. This is not a gift we simply give and forget. This is a change in philosophy, and you will guide it. I'm just a janitor, Tom protested. I don't know how to run some huge program. You knew how to see my granddaughter when dozens walked past her, the Empress replied. That is the only qualification required. Do you accept? Tom looked at Kira, who was grinning at him. He thought about all those people on Earth who needed help. About kids sleeping in cars. About families choosing between medicine and food. About all the invisible people he'd walked past himself over the years. Yeah, he said. Yeah, I accept. The Empress nodded once. Then let it be done. The Velkan Empire will honor its debt through action, not words. We will help those who cannot help themselves. And perhaps, in doing so, we will become worthy of the empire my granddaughter will inherit. As the chamber filled with the sounds of advisors already planning and arguing about logistics, Tom realized something. He hadn't asked for this to be a hero or to be remembered. He'd asked for it because it was right. And somehow, that made all the difference. Kira grabbed his hand and squeezed it. You're going to change everything, she whispered. Tom squeezed back. We're going to change everything. Together. 6 months later, Tom was mopping floors again. Different floors this time, in a building that still smelled like fresh paint and new carpet. The Web Initiative Medical Center in South Dallas, 3 blocks from where he used to live. He'd insisted on keeping his old job, or at least a version of it. The Velkans had tried to give him an office, a title, a staff. He'd turned it all down. If he was going to help run this thing, he was going to do it from the ground level, where the actual people were. The center opened at 6 in the morning. By 6:15, the waiting room was full. A mother with 3 kids who'd been coughing for weeks. An old man who hadn't been able to afford his diabetes medication in months. A teenager with a broken arm he'd been hiding from his parents because they couldn't pay for a hospital visit. All of them getting treatment. All of them getting medicine. Nobody asked for insurance cards or credit cards. Nobody got turned away. Tom watched through the window as Dr. Patel, one of the human doctors they'd hired, examined a little girl. The kid was maybe 5, skinny as a rail. Her mom looked exhausted, the kind of tired that came from working 2 jobs and still not making enough. Tom remembered that look from his own childhood. His mom had worn it every day. Mr. Bradley? A young Velkan assistant named Renner approached him. She was one of dozens who'd volunteered to work on the initiative. Kira's speech about helping the overlooked had apparently struck a chord with younger Velkans. We have the weekly numbers you requested. Tom set down his mop and took the tablet she offered. The statistics still amazed him. Across Earth, they'd built 4 to 7 medical centers. The number wasn't an accident. 1 for every person who'd walked past Kira. Each center saw hundreds of patients a day. They'd also opened 32 housing facilities, clean and dignified places where people could get back on their feet. 19 schools in low-income areas had received full funding, new equipment, trained teachers. But the numbers that got him were simpler. Meals provided, 847,000 this month. People housed, 12,430. Kids who'd gone back to school, 6,789. Every single number represented a person. A life changed. Someone who'd been invisible finally being seen. There's something else, Renna said, and she looked excited. The council approved expansion into Velkan territories. They're adapting the initiative model for our own overlooked populations. Empress Natara herself is visiting the outer colonies next month to see conditions there. Tom had to sit down on the bench in the hallway. The Velkans were actually doing it. Not just helping humans to clear debt, but examining their own society. Looking at their own invisible people. The whole empire was having conversations about compassion and responsibility that they'd never had before. His phone buzzed. A text from Kira. She sent him messages almost daily, usually pictures of whatever she was studying. Today it was a photo of her in a classroom, surrounded by human and Vulcan students. She'd insisted on attending regular school in addition to her royal training. Said she wanted to understand normal people if she was going to lead them someday. The text read, "Professor says your approach is naive idealism." I told him naive idealism saved my life. He got quiet after that. Tom smiled and pocketed his phone. He headed outside to take his break, grabbing his lunchbox from the staff room. Same metal lunchbox, though these days it was usually full of food other people insisted on giving him. The cafeteria staff kept sneaking him extra helpings. He'd stopped arguing about it. Outside, the November air was crisp. Tom sat on the same bench where he'd eaten lunch for the past 3 months. Across the street, where there used to be an abandoned lot full of trash and tents, there was now a small park. Vulcan engineers had built it in 2 weeks. Kids were playing on the playground. A few people sat on benches, just enjoying the sunshine. One guy Tom recognized, Bobby, used to sleep in that lot. Now he lived in one of the housing facilities and had a job at a grocery store. Bobby saw Tom and waved. Tom waved back. "Never gets old, does it?" a voice said. Tom looked up and saw Russell, his old neighbor, walking over. Russell worked security at the center now. Good pay, benefits, the whole deal. Seeing people actually get helped instead of pushed around. "No," Tom agreed. "It doesn't." They sat in comfortable silence for a moment. Then Russell said, "You know what kills me? How simple it is. Like, we had the resources all along. We just never decided to actually use them on people who needed them. Took aliens coming from space to show us how." Tom thought about that. It wasn't quite true. Plenty of humans had been fighting for these things for years. Teachers and social workers and activists and volunteers, all trying to help with whatever resources they had. The difference was scale. The Vulcans had brought resources that Earth's governments and corporations had but chose not to spend this way. They'd proven it could be done. Now other nations were scrambling to create their own programs, embarrassed that aliens were taking better care of their citizens than they were. The political response had been wild. Some leaders praised the initiative. Others called it foreign interference. There'd been investigations, hearings, diplomatic incidents. Tom had been called to testify before Congress 3 times. He'd told them the same thing every time, "I'm not trying to embarrass anyone. I'm just trying to help people who need help. If that makes you look bad, maybe ask yourself why." His phone rang. Unknown number, but he'd learned to answer these. It might be someone who needed help. "Hello? Mr. Bradley? This is Janet Rodriguez from Houston. I just wanted to say thank you. My daughter got treated at one of your centers last week. Pneumonia. Without you guys, I don't know what would have happened. We couldn't afford the ER." Tom's throat tightened. He got calls like this sometimes. "I'm glad she's okay. That's what the centers are there for." "I know, but I needed you to know it mattered. She matters. We matter. And you saw that. Thank you." After she hung up, Tom sat there for a long moment. These calls always hit him hard. He'd done one thing. Helped one kid. And somehow that had turned into this, into thousands of people getting help they needed. It didn't make sense on paper. One person shouldn't be able to change this much. But that was the point, wasn't it? He hadn't done it alone. Kira had believed in the idea and convinced her grandmother. The Empress had committed her empire's resources. Thousands of Vulcans and humans had volunteered to make it work. Millions of people had been helped because they'd all chosen to see the invisible. Tom finished his lunch and went back inside. The afternoon shift was always busy. He mopped the hallways, emptied the trash, cleaned the bathrooms. Invisible work. The kind nobody noticed. But he noticed the people who came through those doors. The mom who cried when she got her son's prescription for free. The old man who could finally get his blood pressure checked. The kid with the broken arm getting a cast. Around 4 o'clock, a commotion at the front entrance caught his attention. Tom walked over and found a group of young people, college-aged, holding clipboards. "Can I help you?" he asked. A young woman stepped forward. "We're from the University of Texas. We're studying the Web Initiative model for our public policy class. We were hoping to interview some staff members about implementation." She paused, looking at his janitor uniform, then at his face. Her eyes went wide. "Oh my God. You're him. You're Tom Bradley." Tom shifted uncomfortably. "Yeah, that's me. But I'm just maintenance here. You want to talk to the administrators." "Actually," another student said, Pulling out a recording device, you're exactly who we want to talk to. See, we're trying to figure out how to replicate this. How one person's choice created a movement. How to teach people to see what they've been trained to ignore. Tom thought about that. How did you teach someone to care? How did you make people see the invisible? He wasn't a teacher or a philosopher. He was just a guy who'd shared a sandwich. I don't know if I can help you, Tom said honestly. I didn't set out to create a movement. I just saw a kid who needed help, and I helped. That's all. But that's it, the first student insisted. That's the whole thing. You didn't need a reason beyond someone needs help. You didn't calculate the benefit or the cost. You just acted. How do we get more people to do that? Tom leaned on his mop, considering. Maybe you can't teach it. Maybe you just have to decide that other people matter as much as you do. That their suffering is as real as yours would be. I think most people know that already, deep down. They just get scared or busy or convinced that it's not their problem. He gestured around the center. This place exists because a whole lot of people decided it was their problem. That's the real story. Not me. All of us. The students scribbled notes furiously. They asked more questions, and Tom did his best to answer, though he kept feeling like they were making him into something bigger than he was. He was just Tom. Just a janitor who'd helped a kid. Eventually they thanked him and left. Tom went back to his mopping. The sun was setting outside, casting orange light through the windows. His shift would end in a couple hours. He'd go home to his apartment, the same one-bedroom place, and heat up dinner. Tomorrow he'd come back and do it again. But as he pushed his mop down the hallway, Tom passed the wall where they'd hung photos. Pictures of people the centers had helped. Faces of every age, every background. Some were smiling. Some looked relieved. Some just looked tired but hopeful. Hundreds of faces. Thousands across all the centers. And Tom realized something. He wasn't invisible anymore. Not because he was famous or important, but because he'd chosen to see others, and in doing so, he'd been seen. Really seen. Not as a celebrity or a symbol, but as a person who'd done what anyone could do if they chose to. The door opened and a family walked in, looking nervous and uncertain. Tom caught the eye of the intake coordinator and nodded toward them. Someone else would help them now. Someone else would see them. And that was the real victory. Not that Tom Bradley had helped one kid, but that his choice had inspired thousands of others to help too. He went back to his mopping, humming quietly to himself. Just another day. Just another person doing what needed to be done. And somehow, that was enough.